my most popular videos over the last several years was a video in which I sat down and talked about photography portfolios. Everything from how to make one to how to lay it out properly to how to pick the right images to attract the right clients. This video I feel like was really helpful at the time, but I have learned a lot since that video. That was almost 5 years ago now, and I have, or at least I'd like to think, a bit more knowledge now, and I would like to share some of that with you guys here in this video. Now, a great photography portfolio can really make your photography stand out in the same sense that a crappy or a not well put together portfolio can really hinder, how your work actually looks and how it appeals to clients. I've been doing a lot of mentorship sessions lately, and something that's come up a lot is people have a lot of questions about how to lay their website out and how to pick the right images. I want to be able to demystify a little bit of that in this video and share some of my tips and tricks and how I've decided to lay my own personal website out, in hopes that it will help you guys be able to organize yours as well. So I would say the first and the most important part in all of this before you even get started is to have the right work to display on your website. And there's a few ways you can go about this, kind of looking at your work and seeing what you might need. For me, it helps a lot to pick all of my favorites that I might even potentially want to go on my website, put those all into a folder, let it sit for like a week so I'm not looking at it instantly, and then go back in there and slowly start to pick away the images that you don't really think represent you well. Also, be careful for duplicates or images that look too similar. You don't want to pick 10 images from one set. You want to pick one, maybe two images that really kind of capture the essence of a specific shoot or a trip. Less really is more when it comes to this, so make sure that you are picking your selections wisely, and you want to make sure they have a good variety. When it comes to actually picking the right images, or the right images for you, it's hard to give advice on that because everyone's going to have a different opinion. But I will say getting a second opinion by someone who you trust or another photographer whose work you respect is not a bad idea. I think once you ask too many people, you're going to have too many opinions. Try to see if they like the way that you've laid things out, and more importantly, the images that you actually select. I use a program called Photo Mechanic. You can also use Adobe Bridge if you're in the Adobe kind of creative suite. To go through and cull my images. What I'll do, especially if I'm trying to organize a new portfolio, is make sure that I have different categories for all the different kinds of work that I want. I'll then go in where I can see sort of a bird's eye view of everything that I've selected, and you can kind of color coordinate and rate different photos for the ones that you want to keep and maybe the ones that you don't want to display on your site. Once you have all the work organized into different buckets, now comes the tedious part of figuring out what you need to go shoot more of to kind of fill in the gaps on your website. And this is something I've done on and off for the last 8 years or so, where I've kind of looked at my work as a whole, figured out a genre that I wanted to be shooting, but I didn't have a lot of that work on my website. So, ask yourself, how is a potential client going to know that I want to shoot portraits if all I have is photos of trees and mountains on my website? A good example of this is weddings. If you want to get away from the wedding world and you want to shoot more commercial stuff, but all you have is weddings on your website, how is someone going to know that that's even what you're interested in doing? It's pretty imperative to have the kind of work that you want to be getting hired for on your website and make it easy to find. I don't want to have to click 10 different links or different project folders to find the photo that I want to look at. Make it clean, make it simple, and make it easy to digest for anyone. Now, this whole less is more mentality is really imperative when it comes to laying out your photography portfolio. Some of the best advice I ever got when it comes to this is if you're going to add an image to the front page of your website, sort of this overview page, you should take one down. This way your website doesn't become too cluttered. You want someone to be able to just scroll through a nice, small but curated body of your work. You don't want someone to have to scroll too much to find the stuff that you're wanting to share with them. When it comes to that overview page, or that page that people instantly land on when they type in your website, you want that to be the best representation of your work. Too many websites I go to, and it's really hard to find the work. I have to click a couple times, scroll down some stuff. I want to be able to just see the work and see it presented well, without having to click or scroll whatsoever. I've curated my overview page to the kind of work that I want to be getting hired for, mainly lifestyle, landscape, travel, and portrait work. I've also sprinkled in some food and some architecture just to share with potential clients that I do know how to shoot multiple different styles of photography, but there's a few that I like to focus my time on. Now, I also find it really helpful to have different buckets or different sections on your website for different kinds of projects. And what I mean by this is, for example, on my website, I have a folder for the different projects and commissions that I've worked on, where it's very easy to find the different projects and click on a project, and then you can view the entire image library. I also have a separate section for travel photography, which is another big passion of mine. So I have different folders for different trips that I've been on and different places that I've explored. I find this to be a great way to organize different projects and different categories of stuff. If you have kind of a wide range of stuff that you shoot, this is a great way for anyone who's looking at your website to find what they're looking for pretty easily. Now, I would also recommend having some pages that aren't visible on your website but are easily shareable with potential clients or people that just want a deeper dive into your work. I myself have pages that are hidden on my website, but they include different buckets of work, like lifestyle photography, portrait photography, even more specific stuff like outdoor focused lifestyle photography. Just buckets of work that I can share really easily. And I don't have to comb through multiple different hard drives or Dropbox folders to find. It's really easy, and I can just click the link and share it with whoever. Also, something that I've found really helpful with sharing my work is a downloadable PDF portfolio of some sort. I made mine in about a couple hours using Canva, and it was really easy to put together. I wanted to highlight some of the recent projects that I worked on, and also just be able to display my work in a way that I had control over. And a PDF or some sort of slideshow is a great way to do this. You can lay out your work in a way that you want people to digest it as, and you can also organize the different projects and pick the projects that you feel best represent you as an artist. The cool thing is this should hopefully be changing as you continue to shoot and build out your book. But right now on my website, this PDF portfolio is a pretty accurate representation of not only the work I want to be shooting, but also some of my favorite works that I've shot over the last several years. So a lot of the advice I've given so far is very computer-based advice, which is extremely important, and it's important to know how to lay your work out. But arguably something that is just as important, if not more, is the actual photos themselves. And I could almost make an entire video on its own about the actual work, but I do believe when I'm looking at a photographer's portfolio and it sticks out to me more than somebody else's, a lot of times it comes down to they know what they're photographing and they have some intention behind it. For the longest time, I did not really understand or know what I was photographing or why I was doing it. And I think it's a pretty common thing that happens when you're working your way through your photography career. You're essentially learning how to be creative, and you're learning how to focus on a specific project and put your heart and soul into that project. And I've been able to focus over the last several years on projects that just feel right to me. And I encourage you guys to find that as well. Find that for yourself. Find those photography topics or genres or stories that you want to chase down that are interesting and unique to you. Not the stories that you think are going to get the most likes on Instagram, or maybe are going to get you some notoriety of some sort. Eventually that will become unfulfilling and you're going to wish that you focused on this in the first place. I think that's why we're often wowed by photographers who have multiple bodies of works from different decades and have been going at this for a long time, is they have that strong intent behind everything that they shoot. They know why they're there, they know why the camera's in their hands, and they're letting their skills and their knowledge dictate the images that come out of the camera. I'm not saying this is a requirement to have a good photography portfolio by any means, but I do think the ones that are the most strong to me, the websites that really make me stop and take a look. Really good photography a lot of times is very emotional. It has a lot of feeling to it. And there's ways that you can incorporate this into your own photography work. Over the years, I've continued to grow my photography knowledge and really switch up my style pretty considerably from when I first moved to LA just about 7 years ago now. I think one of the coolest things about this day and age we live in is you're able to reinvent yourself whenever you would like. And the kind of photography that you shoot will probably change along with that. As an artist, you become interested in different things and you allow yourself to chase down new projects, new stories, new styles of photography. And your website and your portfolio will continue to change along with that. Out of all the images on my photography site, pretty much all of them have been shot in the last 2 to 3 years, if not sooner than that. And I do that intentionally. I think it's great to have a recent body of work, what's recently inspiring you, rather than my favorite images from the last 15 years. Now, this might change as my career goes on. I may want to include more images that were shot in the past. But right now, I'm having a lot of fun in the present moment and trying to share and incorporate the newest work that I have into my photography portfolio. And I think what I'm trying to say with all of this is you should always be shooting new work. You should always be getting out there, chasing down new stories. Don't just let your work sit around and wait for someone to come find you. Try to be intentional, be motivated, and get out there and create the new work that you want to be getting hired for. It will eventually work. It just takes time. And the more effort that you can put in and the more effort and intention and passion behind the photography that you're showing on your site, it really does come through the screen, and especially in printed form. So yeah, don't just sit around. Get out there, bring your camera along, chase down those stories that mean something to you. So real quick, something else that I noticed while I was filming this video is a lot of people don't export their photos for web in the correct size. And I'm going to go ahead and just share with you guys real quick my favorite settings for exporting for web use. Now, the problem I see with a lot of websites is the photos are just simply too big, and you need to compress them without losing too much quality so that your website loads quickly and you don't have to worry about photos not popping up in enough time. Eventually someone's just going to get tired of looking at nothing on your website and they're just going to move on to the next one. So resizing your photos to the correct size is pretty paramount when it comes to making sure your website loads properly. So typically the export settings that I will use for web use are 2500 pixels on the long edge. That means the longest edge of the photo is going to be 2500 pixels. And if I'm exporting in Lightroom, I usually set the quality to about 90. I find this works really well, and I've never had a photo not load properly with these settings. If you want to go even smaller, you probably could. Even 2000 pixels is probably fine. There's certainly no need to go above, I would say, like 2,000 to 3,000 pixels. You're just not going to really notice it on a website too much, and there's no need to have that big of a photo sitting on your site trying to load every time someone refreshes. Typically, I would say in terms of file size, these images are anywhere from 700 kilobytes to maybe 2 megabytes at most. So just keep that in mind for when you guys are uploading photos to your website next. Keep it really small, and you'll notice that the photos load a lot faster. So yeah, photography portfolio is a really important component of being able to display your work in the proper way. Hopefully this video in some way was helpful to any of you guys looking to make your own photography portfolios. If you have any questions or anything like that, leave them down below. Happy to answer any more questions that you guys might have. But this is how I laid my website out. This is how I've been able to land clients and continue to grow my business using my website. Now, speaking of websites, I would like to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, which is Squarespace, for sponsoring today's episode. You know, typically in the past, when you would try to make your own photography portfolio, there's a lot more that you had to do on the back end to make sure that things were running smoothly. And thankfully with Squarespace, you don't have to worry about that anymore. I've been using Squarespace pretty much since the start of my career, and I can't recommend them enough to any of you guys out there looking to create your own photography portfolio, sell e-commerce products, even book appointments, create gallery pages. They make it extremely easy to do all of this, and you don't have to know any sort of coding or back-end stuff. It does all of it for you, and it makes your website look beautiful. If you guys would like to check out Squarespace for yourself, there'll be a link down in the description to receive 10% off your first website or domain purchase. Thanks so much to Squarespace as always for sponsoring this video, and thanks to you guys for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys in the next one.